Hi, guys, welcome back to the Going with the Flow podcast. Now, today I am joined with a very special guest who I actually discovered on TikTok because I've actually just stalked her account because I'm obsessed. And that is Lucy. So, hi, Lucy, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast.
So, just to give the listeners, I always want to say viewers, because I'm so used to YouTube, but to give the viewers a little bit of background on you, do you just want to sort of introduce yourself and a bit about you and your background?
Sure. So my name is Lucy Hitchcock. I'm the founder of not one but two businesses because I'm a lunatic. And my first business is Sassy Digital, which is a branding, marketing, and web design agency for all businesses. I work with a majority female-led businesses, fashion businesses, influencers. We build a lot of membership websites. Branding, all of the above. I'm a bit of a marketing whiz. That's kind of what my background's in, which leads me up very nicely onto Partner in Wine, which was my kind of lockdown project. And it's my best case study, I'd like to say. So I started Partner in Wine just after lockdown one when I famously couldn't keep my wine cool whilst having a socially distant drink in the park with my best friend. And I went to meet her in the park. I'd had my bottle of rosé chilling all day. And as I was about to leave, I said to my mum, like, how am I going to keep this? How am I going to keep this cold? Because it was really warm at the time. And she gave me this really sad little bag, which was like a kind of promotional gift. And it did the job at the time, but I had to take a bottle opener. And then obviously once we'd finished the wine, then I had to bring it home and the rubbish. Yeah, the whole thing. It just didn't look very cool. And I was like, I can do this better. I was thinking about putting it in my gym bottle. That wasn't going to sort of work for me because it's not going to hold a full bottle of wine. And obviously, if you want to drink a full bottle of wine, you've got to keep it cool and take the whole thing with you. So I basically created this insulated wine bottle that's shaped like a wine bottle, holds a full bottle of wine, keeps it cool for up to 24 hours, and very handily as well in the winter. It keeps mulled wine warm for up to 12 hours as well. But obviously you can put whatever you like in there, but it's kind of a bit of a play on words. Loads of people are just loving it. So yeah, that's a very brief story. But yeah, I've been self-employed since I left my job at 23 years old to start Sassy Digital, and I kind of started working with a few influencers, sort of freelance, and just kind of built up the business from there.
I mean, I obviously know you primarily from seeing Partner in Wine and seeing that grow. I remember seeing your first, well, it wasn't your first TikTok, but I think it went viral, if I'm right. And it
Yeah,
was about the story, how it was created. And I just thought it was so inspiring, especially to those out there who, do have a business idea and, just want to go for it. So, yeah, I think we'll probably get onto that a little bit later. But I think what's really interesting is your background in marketing and how that's aided you with your journey in Partner in Wine. Obviously, I know you've started Sassy Digital, which is extremely successful, but prior to that, like, did you have a lot of experience in marketing? Did you do a degree in marketing? And how did you sort of actually get on to, right, I'm going to be self-employed and go into that, well, form Sassy Digital?
yeah, sure. So it's funny because I actually never knew really what I wanted to do. And one of the things that I have always wanted to do, which I suppose I am now the presenter of my own social media channels, but the only thing I ever really wanted to do was be a TV presenter. But kind of through school and whatnot, they were kind of a bit like, maybe you should think about a sort of, career in, something else, an office career. And I was kind of thinking, oh, what would that be? And then I did media at A level, and I decided to do a degree in communication and media at Bournemouth University. So I went and studied there for 3 years. And just on the side of that, I did a hell of a lot of internships in marketing, in events management, just to kind of really see what it was that I was good at. And I guess if you're good at something, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean you enjoy something that you're good at, but it just so happens that actually I do really enjoy marketing. It's the way that my brain works. I always say I'm really jealous of people who can like paint and do all of that, but then actually I think in my head I'm a very good storyteller. I'm very good with words, and that's kind of what makes me, I guess, good at the whole marketing thing. So I was good at it. So I was kind of doing that. And then on the side at uni, I was doing the online stuff for Nerve magazine, which is like Bournemouth University's sort of student magazine, and kind of coding websites on the side just out of personal interest. Like, I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to that sort of thing. So I'm a marketeer, but also like I love a challenge when it comes to like the internet and like technology and all of that sort of stuff. So I was doing quite a lot of that for, I was managing the Nerd Magazine website and learning how to use like WordPress, CMS systems, and then, coding. Sorry if anyone's too young to remember, but coding my MySpace page, and that sort of stuff. That kind of really like got me into it. I used to love doing all of that. So yeah, I guess it's not just about kind of going into my career and then I was suddenly like, oh, I'm now working marketing. There was kind of a lot that went on sort of behind the scenes in terms of like internships and really trialing different things out. And then when I left university, it was the time actually when it was really difficult to get a job. We were just kind of bouncing back from recession and all of that sort of stuff. Everyone was leaving uni going, oh my gosh, it's so hard to find a job. What are we going to do, especially in like a creative industry? At the time, it was really hard. And a lot of my friends, didn't get jobs for 6 months or so. My godfather, he needed someone to sort of cover for their receptionist. And it was during the summer, and I said, yeah, I'll absolutely come along for a few weeks, earn a bit of money, applying for jobs on the side and whatnot. And while I was there, one of the people that worked there said that his girlfriend was leaving a job at a marketing agency and they were looking for an intern to go in for 3 months. So again, with the internship, unpaid, in I went for 3 months working on social media for a private members club and a few private hospitals, working on their blogs and, really kind of expanding my knowledge in terms of like actual working with actual clients on their online marketing and seeing what worked, what didn't work, all of that sort of stuff. Unfortunately, hang on, I've skipped too far ahead now. I then got offered a job there. So I worked there for 6 months, but unfortunately, this is a lesson I really should have learnt myself, which I'll speak about a little bit later on. But when budgets are cut within businesses, the first thing to go is social media, which is really funny to me thinking about it now, because social media is the most important thing currently. I personally think in this day and age to marketing your business organically. Putting money into paid ads is pointless if you're not getting it right organically. So yeah, I got made redundant from that job and I had a lovely long summer off. And then I got a job in corporate comms, which was very, very dry. It was not a great experience, I'm not going to lie. I worked for a massive agency and I was just a kind of another number on the sheet. I worked with a lot of, older middle class men who it just was not a nice working environment. I sometimes had to be at work until like gone 2-3 in the morning, had to come back at like 5 a.m. to do financial results and stuff like that. And it really wasn't for me. The people weren't like, I had some lovely friends there, don't get me wrong, but the people weren't for me. Yeah, it just wasn't for me. So I then started looking at other options and I was thinking, okay, one of my best friends had left her job to be an influencer full time. And I was kind of thinking, I'd love to leave my job and all of that. And she'd been to an event and she said, I was speaking to a lady called Madeline Shaw, who is a nutritionist, yoga teacher, author, amongst many, many other things. And she was at the time looking for someone to help with her website and manage all the marketing side of things. And she put me in touch. We ended up working together, and I basically left my job to work for her 3 days a week, which was amazing because obviously I could spend the other 2 days of the week building up my client base. And at that point, I was like, I really want to run people's social media. That is what I want to do, despite the fact that actually I'm probably better at web design. So I then started doing that, but very, very quickly sort of realized within Sassy that just having one line of revenue stream was just not gonna be a sustainable sort of for business growth, basically. So started doing websites as well, started doing branding as well, because I work with some amazing freelancers who are absolutely fantastic in their sort of respective fields. And then it kind of became this like agency that's an anti-agency, because people are working with me I'm outsourcing to freelancers, giving them, it makes me feel good because I can give other people work on the side, and then everyone gets a piece of the pie. But then it's also cheaper for the client. So that's kind of the premise behind Sassy. Is I wanted to always make sure I left my job to help small businesses, and no matter how big it grew or who we worked with, how well known the companies are or whatever, I really wanted to make sure that we were always able to offer something for every single business, whatever their budget, price point, stage of business. Um, and I think I've remained true to that. And that's, I've got really strong values and I love helping people. And that's kind of what gets me out of bed in the morning is getting to work with so many amazing people. And actually, at the end of the day, going, you know what? I've really made a difference to someone today. That's kind of that's what it is. And that's just not something that I got from working with someone else. I'd go to work, I'd go home, I'd be like, I'm tired, I don't want to go out, I want to apply for another job, but also I can't be bothered to do that because I'm so like depressed. Whereas now my weeks go so quickly and I get to the weekend, I'm like, oh, you know what? Some things this week were hard, but like another great week of being self-employed.
Yeah. I think as well, like a lot of Flow's followers are sort of in that stage of starting out and not really having a clue what to do. And I think if you are going to make that jump and go into being self employed, I think having that purpose there is just key because, especially even with Flow, like the sort of similarity with that I get is people saying, "Oh, I've been able to land a job and it's because of watching Flow," and all that sort of stuff. And I think if you don't have that purpose there, then there's no point in doing it because you won't get that fulfillment. And as you say, like you want to finish every week, and even if everyone has bad weeks, but even if it has been a bad week, you want to start again on Monday, and you're so driven to keep going. And I think that is so important to really have those values there and to just make sure that you are sticking to those values.
Yeah,
um
for sure. Don't get me wrong, it is difficult, and I think a lot of people always think the grass is greener. Like if you have a job, if you work for someone and you kind of thinking, oh, I want to go freelance, like it is hard. It's really hard. Um, and I've, had many, many times where I've been like, I need financial stability. I need to go back to work. But it just, I think you either are the type of person that can push through and kind of do that. Or maybe, if you if that worries you and it's not for you, then it's one of those things where you can have a full-time job, and quite a lot of full-time jobs nowadays allow you to have that side hustle, like, do some freelance graphic design work, freelance web development work. That's okay too, because it kind of gives you the best of both worlds, really.
Yeah, and as well, I think a lot of people when they're starting out, they might not realize, especially like when because I had a full time job and then I just jumped straight into doing Flow full time. It was actually quite. I think it doesn't get glorified on social media, but you have this expectation of you leave your full time job and it's going to be amazing and you're going to sort of have this business and stuff. And half of that is true. Like it is great to go self employed, but for me, I've found that it is actually quite lonely. I don't know if you've ever had experiences of that because obviously you're probably yeah I mean it's on like a bigger scale compared to like my journey, but I think there's definitely been barriers where I think, is this actually for me? Is self-employed a career path that I actually want to follow? I'm still very much in that stage now, to be honest, but yeah, do you ever, I mean, I'm guessing as well, like if you ever come to those sort of stints of I'm struggling or I'm not feeling motivated, do you ever like do you have any advice for anyone out there, or like ways of going about that, or how to like deal with it and get over that?
Yeah, so the first thing I'll say is when I first left my job and I didn't have anyone working for me, I joined Facebook groups. And I used to kind of sit there, ask people questions. There's so many sort of groups and memberships that aren't hugely expensive. I'm talking about maybe £5-10 a month, where you can get access to other people and you can make friends. And I've made some really great friends from these groups. And I've also made friends from Instagram, purely from finding a community. And there is various different like communities on Instagram that it sounds really weird, but once you like get to know these different communities and people tag each other and things, and then you kind of like, there's a really good group of business owners, freelancers, entrepreneurs on social media. I've made some great friends that way. So my journey felt less lonely when I knew that other people were going through the same things as me. So that would be the first thing that I would say. And the second thing is This is really funny, but when I am having a bad day, which is actually very rare at the moment, I'm quite a motivated person, so I don't often go, "Meh, can't be bothered today." But a few years ago, I was going through a period where I was like, oh, I'm just really not in the mood today. And someone gave me this piece of advice when they said, do you know what? If you're really not feeling it, just take the day off. Just take the day off, go and do something else, do what you want to do, go and watch TV, have some sleep, whatever you want to do. Go, I don't know, go to Thorpe Park, like have fun. Wake up tomorrow and it's a new day. And when I am in a I am in a bad mood, I will quite often do that just because I think there's no point in doing any work if you're not feeling motivated because it's not going to be your best piece of work. And I'm
Yeah,
very, especially when you're working with clients, I'm very aware of that. I don't want to put, I don't want to put, 50% Lucy into a website redesign. I want to put 100% Lucy into a website redesign because at the end of the day, that's what people are paying for, your expertise. And if you're not able to put 100% into it on a particular day, manage expectations and just start again tomorrow.
yeah, I 100% agree with that. And I think as well, you don't want to burn yourself out because it's just going to be less productive in the long run. Like I've had days where I'll work up until, you know, 8 at night or whenever. And I just get to that point of I can't do anymore. And I feel like when I'm writing and whatever I'm doing, it just looks terrible. And I think, you know what, just close the laptop, watch Netflix or whatever you need to do. Like that's completely fine. And as you say, like have the day off, just go for a walk. Like I think you need that, especially when you work in a creative industry as well, because you sort of need to have that break and to sort of refresh your brain, I guess, in a sense.
It's a massive learning curve, I think. And I mean, look, I've been self-employed for nearly 7 years, and there's still things that I'm learning and learning to make those boundaries. Um, but I mean, I didn't really take a proper holiday for probably 4 or 5 years because when I was away, I was having to post people's social media. I was having to do this. I was having to do that. I was having to remember this, and I'm still working in my head even when I'm not on my laptop. And it's only really in the last year or so where I've got various different employees that I'm able to go, they've got this, I'm going on holiday. Equally, if you are freelance self-employed, making sure that you're actually putting the time in to take those days off. Like, a lot of my friends will take like half days off every now and again, take a whole day off. And there is that flexibility when you're freelance, but then equally, or you're a business owner, but equally on the flip side of that, if you're not working, you're not making any money. So it's kind of you have to try and find that balance and make that schedule for yourself and be strict with it, because otherwise you will find that you're missing out on things in life. So yeah, it is good to try and be conscious of those boundaries. And for example, I won't, unless I have a launch, I won't work at the weekends and I won't work in the evenings. um Unless there's something massive going on, much like you would if you worked in an office. um Whereas before, I'd be like, oh, on a Friday, oh, I've got a few more bits to do, but I'll just do them tomorrow. Like, it's not a big deal. And then I'd be working on a Saturday, and then I'd fall down a loophole. And next thing I know, it's 6 o'clock, and I'm like, what am I doing? So, yeah, it's one of those things. I think you have to just be conscious of it and make sure that you're setting appropriate boundaries for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it is like difficult to find your own routine as well. Because I'm at the very start of my journey, it's sort of finding what works for me. And I'm definitely guilty of I leave it till Saturday and then it's not really as effective. I'm sort of trying to figure out like I should actually treat this as get up at 9, finish at 5 instead of right. I'll leave that to the weekend because it's just not efficient for me. So yeah, that's really insightful actually for anyone wanting to start out in freelance or being self-employed, and especially to me as well because I am very much new. So I need a few pointers when it comes to self motivation.
I think also like not putting pressure on yourself, because like it's easy for me to say it, but like I've learned that lesson the hard way. So I mean, everyone's got to learn that lesson the hard way, or just try and start doing these things.
And I feel like as well because when you do make the leap, it's just so different, and you are just constantly learning and in effect like winging it, not winging it, but everything that you do is completely new. And even in like the corporate world as well, I found this even when I worked for an agency, like I used to be so shy, and I'd think everyone around me knows what they're doing. But when I was there a year, I sort of realized that actually there's a lot of people that sort of come across things that they've never seen before, and that's just life, and everyone's human, and you do just pick it up as you go. So
You do. I mean, the difference is when you work in an office, and I always refer to it as having a real job,
yeah,
because I often don't feel like my job is actually work.
yeah,
But it's one of those things where when you have a real job, if you come across something you've never seen before, you just ask your manager or you just ask the person next to you. When you're working on your own, there's no one to do that. So it's harder. Like setting up a company, I'm just like, I remember when I did it, I still remember the day I was sat in the Hoxton Hotel in Covent Garden, which is where I used to go and work because it was like, I mean, you don't have to pay, but obviously you buy a coffee and it was cheaper than going to a co-working space. So I was sat there setting up this company and I was like going in circles around the HMRC website. And I was like, who can I call? No one I know is self-employed. Like I'm literally having to do this on my own. And it seemed like a really scary, daunting task at the time. And then reading all the like, you must do this, you mustn't do that, tax returns, blah, blah, blah. And eventually I just kind of was like, do you know what? Everything is hard because I don't have anyone else to ask.
mhm.
And that's just the reality of it. And I get this weird satisfaction from working these things out anyway. So um, it is difficult, but it's just one of those things that the more you do it, the less scary it seems.
Yeah, and that's so funny as well because I literally experienced that about 2 months ago when I set Flow up, and I didn't have anyone who set up as self-employed either, so, like, all my friends just work full time, and I've never had anyone, so I was just sort of, like, ringing my mum, like, "Is this right?" Like, I need to double check everything, so I honestly didn't have a clue, but, that is just the learning curve of it, and you just do pick things up and just learn it as you go, I guess, so it's just funny though
Yeah.
because at the time you think you're alone and you think you're so stupid, but in reality, like, everyone gets to that stage, like, you never get past that stage unless you just, do it. So it's just nice to hear that other people have felt the same.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I mean, I guess going back to Sassy Digital and that journey, I wanted to just ask you because a lot of Flow's audience is really interested in marketing, and I think it can be sort of a minefield when you want to get into the industry. I've especially felt like this when I was a graduate, and just not having a clue like what you actually enjoy, what you want to go into. And I know we've sort of touched on the fact that I think you need to try a lot of different things, and obviously you did a lot of internships. Um, but through Sassy Digital, like, how did you find, what you really want to focus on? Was it a case of just like trying out different things, or what was that like journey like for you?
So I never really understood why people focus on one niche to begin with, because if you go, I only want to work with fashion brands, right? Okay, that's cool. But there's so many other like industries out there, and you're more likely to get more work if you don't have a niche from the beginning. And then you'll find that you end up going into a niche for one reason or another, which I'll explain in a second. But I was working with all kinds of businesses to begin with. I was working with food companies, I was working with hairdressers, I was working with graffiti removal companies, who are still my client today, by the way. Yep, still my client today. Good old John and John, love them.
Big up.
Yeah, big up. One of my more random clients. But I personally I just like working with nice people. And when people say like, oh, you work with influencers and fashion brands and whatever, I'm like, no, I work with nice people. That is what I don't want to work with anyone that's horrible. I've got to a point where I can very quickly sense when I'm speaking to someone if they're going to kind of boss me around or whatever. And I'm just not sort of here for it. And I'm very strict on that. If I don't vibe with a client, I'm like, no, I'm not working with you. But yeah, it's one of those odd things that kind of, I think you've got to try everything you possibly can. If a client comes to you or you're attracting clients from various different industries, like as long as you think you can help them, why would you turn that work down just because you have decided that you want to have a niche in fashion? In terms of actually specializing in something, or in terms of Sassy, when I say we work with a lot of fashion brands, the reason why that is because we built a website for one of my best friends is the founder of a company called Stay Wild Swim. She's the co-founder of the business with another influencer, and we built a website my website is at the bottom of theirs, and I then was getting loads of inquiries for website redesigns for just from that website. And then I started working with Sarah Ashcroft, who is a fashion influencer and CEO of SLA The Label, which is her own fashion brand. We did the branding for that and the website just literally through something she posted on Instagram. And I slid into her DMs from Sassy Digital account and went, "We got you, girl." And then just did the like sassy emoji. And I was on the phone with her the next day. And she was just like, "I've looked at your account. Like, I just really feel like you get my vibe." And we kind of, now we're like, what, nearly 3 years down the line, and we still work together. Yeah, obviously my website is now at the bottom of that website, which has like, thousands of visitors a day. So then you get more inquiries for fashion. And then I end up building, we end up building mainly kind of fashion, activewear, and swimwear brands websites now, because that is kind of what we've become known for. But that's not because that's a niche that I decided to go into, and it's not something I would ever write on my website. I wouldn't say we build websites for fashion brands. I say, what I said at the beginning of this podcast, website branding and marketing for all businesses, because I just think you should kind of open yourself up to new opportunities, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what I love about that is how you just showing your personality, like just DM'd, and I just love that because I think, if you are setting up, or a lot of people like in the flow community or sort of have start their own like marketing pages and stuff and always ask me, how do you stand out against other people, because it can be very competitive and obviously like a very saturated market at times, obviously depending on what you get into. But I think, just being true to yourself and the fact that you just showing like your personality through messaging someone, and that can actually land you a client. And obviously there's levels of professionalism with everything, but I just love that because I think, at the end of the day, people do work with people, and that's probably what is so special about your brand as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's also different ways of, I think, sorry to interrupt you, there's different ways of going about contacting people. And I guess people might find this helpful, but for example, on Partner and Wine's Instagram, I always, 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 always get DMs saying the various different things, like asking to work together or do collabs or whatever. And so many of these things I will delete straight away, because I'm like, you've not done your research, you're not addressing me by my name, you're asking me for something that, I'm not really getting anything in return for. If for example, hate to sound horrible, but if someone's got 300 followers and they're like, "Hey, do you want to do a giveaway?" It's kind of like, probably not, because your page and your branding is not really up to scratch with what I kind of would consider um, to be a worthwhile kind of relationship, or maybe the product's not right or whatever it is. But when people slide into DMs, they go, "Hey guys," and I'm like, no, delete. I'm like, I if you can't do your research enough to address me by my name, or even know that Annie works for me and say, "Hey Annie," it's just a no from me. And the same goes with emails. And I think when you're applying to, or when you're asking brands whether they need any help, you have to treat it like a cover letter. It's not about what they can do for you, it's about what you can do for them. And I think that's a really difficult thing for people to kind of get their heads around. And look, this is a marketing activity in itself. What is marketing about? Marketing is about helping your customers. Like, how are you helping them? Why should they buy from you? And that is exactly the same for getting work. Don't just slide into DMs and go, "Do you need any help with graphic design?" Send an email, go, "Hey Lucy, I've been following Partner in Wine for ages. I absolutely love all of the stuff that you post on social media. Your graphics are really great. Your branding's great. I just had a couple of ideas that I want to share with you. I really feel like I could kind of help you with your packaging design or unboxing experience, whatever it's going to be. I've mocked up a few things here, or I've included some examples of my work here. Would absolutely love to chat if you're kind of open to a sort of new working relationship." That's the kind of email that I would open and be like, "Do you know what? I'm going to give this person the time of day, because they've really done their research." And I think when people put the time in, you should always give them your time as well, rather than if someone's just sent an email doing no research, or even worse, when they BCC you and send it to no one, or like send it to themselves, and you're like, you've just sent this email out to about 100 other people. Like, I'm absolutely not replying to that. It's just lazy. I just hate laziness.
No, I agree, and I think you can just tell a mile off because you can just see that it's been copy and pasted. Like, it's so obvious. Just make a little bit of effort. It's not that difficult, and I think that goes across the board as well. Like, with whatever you do, if you are reaching out for an opportunity or for a collaboration, it's not. I mean, it'll take like what 10 minutes out of your day to actually look. Do your research, look at the brand, and yeah, and also if you've not really been following that brand or have no interest in it whatsoever, but you're just sort of reaching out for a collaboration, I think you can tell as well because again, the way that they just word it.
I mean, look, that can be applied to so many different things. It can be applied to reaching out to influencers. It can be applied to cover letters. It can be applied to CVs. It can be applied to, but there's just so many things it can be applied to. Copying and pasting is just not a good idea.
Yeah, definitely stay away from copying and pasting, guys. Um, so yeah, I just want to also move on swiftly to Partner and Wine and how Sassy Digital played a role in the success of Partner and Wine. Obviously your experience and background in marketing. And I mean, today's podcast, I don't actually think I've said the name of today's podcast, but it's basically called, Why Marketing Matters More Than Ever. So, you know, in terms of the success of Partner in Wine, how much do you value marketing? I mean, obviously a lot, but is there any specific platform? Is there any like strategy, like tips or, that have contributed?
I mean, that is a can of worms. That is that question. But the one thing I will say, and this, I mean, this makes it sound really. This is going to make it sound really like I don't love my brand and I think it's just a product. But at the end of the day, a product is just a product, right? It's just what am I selling? I'm selling a stainless steel bottle. I've not reinvented the wheel. There's so many other people you can buy a stainless steel bottle from. What Partner in Wine is a branding exercise. And the moment I thought the idea up, I pictured the packaging in my head. We worked on the branding, literally got it right within probably 24 hours. And next thing I knew, the packaging was designed. And as soon as I saw the packaging, I was like, that belongs on the shelf of Selfridges. And that's where it's going to be. And it just so happened within 7 months that I managed to do it. Because of viral video fame and whatnot. But Partner in Wine is very much a brand. It's actually very difficult to get something like that right. But because of my background, because of the people that I've worked with, there are certain things that I've seen along the way that I'm like, I wouldn't have done what you've done your brand like this, but I don't have my own brand, so I can't prove to you that what you've done, in my opinion, is not the best thing to do, right? And it also kind of gives that, like, if I'm giving people advice, they're like, well, do you know what? You don't have your own brand. Like, you don't have a product. So, like, how would you know? And now I'm like, I will speak to people and I'm like, they'll give me their opinion. I'll say, no, that might seem like a good idea, but trust me when I tell you X, Y, and Z. And they're like, do you know what? You've done it. So, respect. I completely understand what you're saying. And then they'll go off and do something and they'll do it correctly. Partner in Wine is a bit of a beast because the name is very cheeky. The packaging is cheeky. Like, everything about Partner in Wine is cheeky, but there's so many other things that I had to pull off as part of that. So, for example, memes, being reactive, seeing what's trending, making sure that I'm constantly staying ahead of things. And I was saying to Annie the other day, who's my absolutely brilliant marketing exec, marketing content exec, she comes up with a lot of she does all like the graphic design stuff and emails, and she works with me on the photo shoots, marketing, I mean, pretty much everything. But we were having this conversation the other day and saying, do you know what the difference is between Partner and Wine? And for example, other people have now started selling insulated wine bottles. Like, they've seen it do well and they've been like, do you know what? I'm going to do this too. Great. The difference is that the way that we run our social media and the way that we kind of market the bottles and the tumblers is so ahead of the curve and different from what other people are doing. And the reason that is because I have a background in marketing and branding and web design, and I know how to do it. I know how it should be done. I know as a business owner how that marketing needs to go. And the way that we run our social media and marketing is not something that can be outsourced. And I always say to people when they, I get so many people come to Sassy and go, listen, we love partnering with social media. We want you to run it. We want you to run ours, but the way that you run that. And we were also having a conversation yesterday. How much of a retainer would we have to pay a social media agency to do what we do for Partner in Wine? It is like a full-time job, like all day, every day, because you're on TikTok. I try and produce like so much content every day. And that's just something that I have to do for the sake of the marketing. You add all those hours up, I reckon you'd probably be between like 5 and 10 grand retainer. And I just can't put that much time into someone else's marketing, which is why I always say to people, as a business owner, you are best placed to do your own marketing, because people want to know who the person behind the business is, And I think that's something that I've done very well. And yes, like I'm comfortable on camera. If I'm very much shameless in the way that if someone's like, can you make a video on this? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I'll do it in the middle of the office when people are around me, because I'm just like, I have no shame. If this gets me a sale, whatever, like time well spent. So it's one of those things that I think it's hard to say, but I think, to be honest with you, my top tips probably in terms of anyone that's listening that, I don't know, whether you're a service-based business or a product-based business, is make sure you're always giving something to the people that are following you. You can't just be a brand anymore and post pictures of your products and go, look at my new rose pink bottle. Like, isn't this lovely? It's going to keep your wine cold. No, people don't want you to literally shove your products down their throat every day. They want something else. So, we do wine tips, we do wine pairings, we do food pairings for wine. I post entertaining videos about wine and business and, all of the above. And that gets people, really engaged on a different level, because they'll go back to the page to see what, I don't know, a silly meme that I've posted about the Prime Minister or something, holding a Partner in Wine bottle, or, Kris Jenner at the Fashion Awards, her hands were best placed to hold a Partner in Wine bottle. So what did I do? Photoshopped a Partner in Wine bottle in. Those are the sorts of things that people like. If you're entertaining someone, you're making them feel something, or you're educating them, that's all you can really do to kind of offer your followers something a little bit extra, rather than just talking about your products all the time, because that's boring.
Yeah, and I think across the board as well, I think with the rise of TikTok as well, content's just becoming so much more authentic, and from brands such as Ryanair and Duolingo, all these sorts of things that you see. It's Duolingo aren't putting out TikToks about their services for language translation. They're not doing that. They're doing like memes and funny, to reach that Gen Z target audience. So I think for you to say that as well, like it's so true. Like, you can't just post about your product. You've got to look at what's beyond that and what's actually going to engage people. And I remember seeing your latest TikTok. I think it was the little cards, as you've mentioned, with the tasting like pairings. And that strikes a different sort of, it's not directly linked to the product. Well, it is linked to the product, but it's just something different. And I think having that within your strategy is just key to engagement. And it can be difficult. Like, I don't know if you've ever felt this, but I've definitely like experienced, I don't know what to post. I've definitely hit a block. Like, my content's just the views and stuff. But I think if you keep trying different things as well, I think that's really important, especially on TikTok. And expect that not every single video is going to go viral, because that's just TikTok as well. And
Unfortunately.
I mean, yeah, I wish every TikTok did go viral.
Wouldn't that be nice? Sorry, just on your point there, I was going to say that one thing I always say to people is, you cannot do well on social media if you don't spend any time on it. And it's kind of a blessing and a curse, because the amount of time that I spend on TikTok, I'll see a sound crop up. Like, I know when something's about to trend, because I'll see it pop up like 2 or 3 times, and then I'm like, boom, get on that, make a video, bosh, out it goes. Like, you can't go viral if you don't spend any time on TikTok. And I spent a hell of a lot of time pre-viral video watching. I didn't post anything. I mean, there was a few videos before that, but I spent a lot of time watching TikToks, watching what other people were posting in terms of their small businesses, watching what went viral. And I was like, okay, I kind of get it now. People are telling stories, or they're entertaining, or they're educating. So I'm like, okay, let's try a few of these. And then about 12 posts in, I managed to absolutely nail it. So there you go. But I mean, again, very hard to replicate. Once that many people have seen your story, they're kind of like, yeah, shut up, I know the story. Okay, I get it.
That's literally what I felt like, because what the video that made Flow sort of, well, like you always have like that one viral video that you talk about, and the Flow
Is it the one where you're going, like, you've got the portfolio and you're going boom, 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 and it like changes the
yeah,
pages?
and it's like dun 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 dun, that one, yeah. Um, and I remember like I posted a TikTok sort of, I think this was a couple of months after that. And it was again just talking about my story and like obviously how portfolio that helped me get a job in the marketing industry. And someone commented on it like, "Yeah, we get it. Like we get it. Just help us." And for that, that like clicked in my brain. Like, yeah, you know what? People do already know this. And the next step is right. Actually, informing people, how do they, giving that advice. And I think that was like a sort of moment for me where I realized, okay, I need to sort of have variation within my content. And as much as a story does matter, you need to sort of branch off and give value in different ways as well.
And I also think there's various different branches off your story which you can tell. And an example I'll give is I did a first birthday video that got hundreds of thousands of views, and like loads and loads of shares. And it was basically about, I started my business a year ago. This is all the things I've achieved, blah blah blah, and people absolutely loved it. And the other video that I made was when I announced that we were launching a Selfridges. It started off at the beginning with a little story about how I'd like manifested. I'd spoken about it on a couple of different podcasts, and I'd taken the recordings from those podcasts and used that as a sound for the video. So equally, that is a story within the wider story. And I posted a story this morning actually, because I haven't done an updated one in a while. But honestly, it took me about 4 hours to make, and the amount I tried to fit into a 60-second clip was just, I'm like, blah, 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 then I did this, then I did this, blah, and now you can buy this product and it's new. But within that story, there are so many different things. So, for example, I've got another one lined up about all the brands that I've worked with, like that people may recognize. So that again, like, is a different story. But you can tell these stories in different ways so that people feel like they kind of not heard it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something I need to take on board as well, because, that story is a part of your journey as well in your business and whatever you're doing, because you're always going to have new followers as well and new viewers who might not know your story. So, that is true. You need to obviously, whether it's obviously your current audience or someone new who's watching your channel, like it is important to always stick with that, I guess. But yeah, the last thing, because I know that we're sort of getting towards probably the end of the recording, but the last thing that I wanted to talk about is obviously your huge, partnership with Selfridges and the partner in wine tumblers being stocked in there. Obviously, that's a huge achievement, and I think it would be great to hear from you, like how did that come about? And obviously, I know that you set that as like a goal, and that's just incredible for anyone listening, that you can actually manifest that if you set it. And no goal is ever too small, because even though you think it's silly, it's definitely not. So yeah, I'd just be interested to hear, like, how did that come about, and how did you know that you was going to actually achieve that?
Okay, so I am very much like an active manifester. So I don't sit down and basically go, I'm manifesting this. I will be like, this is what I'm doing, like this is where I'm going to get to, and like it's going to happen. But so the 3 days before that video went viral, so this was like the end of last February, I went on a dog walk with my brother on the Sunday, and the video went viral on the Wednesday. And I was on this dog walk with my brother, and he was like, look, Lucy, your products really belong to Selfridges. Like, you keep talking about it, and I think you should just reach out to them. And I turned to him and I went, no. I was like, Jamie, they will come to me. Okay, so saying these things out loud and making sure that you're doing all the things and ticking all the right boxes in terms of getting to your goal. So say, for example, with Selfridges, it's building a social media following, getting into press so that that your products are, it just kind of adds a bit of gravitas around the brand, if press trust it and whatever, because obviously stockists like Selfridges need to know that they'll sell if they stock them. So I knew that I ticked all of those boxes. Anyway, the video went viral, and I was obviously I was sat at this very desk, kind of like shaking all day, like I don't know what to do with myself. Oh my god, like the sales are they just keep coming. I've never experienced anything like this. And I made in a day. Well, I made more in a day than I'd made ever in a month previous to that. And I was just sat there, and it must have been about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. This email popped up, and it said Selfridges, and I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, oh my goodness, it's happened. And I called my brother, and I was like, you will never guess what's just happened. He was like, and things always happen to me that I say are going to happen. So my brother was like, I know what you're going to say. Selfridges have emailed you, haven't they? And I was like, yes. And he was like, you are so jammy. How do you do this? You say like, Selfridges is going to reach out to me. And he's like, yeah, all right, you're being a little bit cocky, aren't you? And I'm like, no, trust me, they will. The time will come. And yeah, it's because they'd obviously seen the viral video, and anything like that. Selfridges love a new sort of product, don't they? And actually, the following day, Oliver Bonus reached out, but because I was speaking to Selfridges and it's something I'd always manifested, I also managed to get the pricing down if we did exclusive with them for the summer, which we did. But yeah, we're also stocked with Oliver Bonus now, which is really exciting because I bloody love Oliver Bonus. And they're actually weirdly only just down the road from me, but they're just so nice to work with. So yeah, it was one of those weird things. But equally, I think in terms of manifesting stuff, if anyone is interested in it, as I said earlier, it's more about making a goal and then trying to work out how you can get there by taking action. Manifesting that you're going to win the lottery, I mean, come on, like the only thing you can really do to make that happen is buy the ticket because it's so random. But it's one of those things that if you are willing to take the steps to get yourself to where you want to be, it is always going to happen because it's drive and determination that gets you there, not, I do believe the universe does give you stuff that you ask for, but at the same time you have to work for it. It's not, it's never going to come easy. And I think with Partner in Wine, especially, a lot of the things that I manifest. So this year, for example, my goal is to turn over 1 million. And I was currently sat here for like the past couple of weeks, like, okay, January's a bit of a slow month. How are we going to make that 1 million, Lucy? And I got an email yesterday from someone saying they potentially were interested in ordering 80,000 units. Got my calculator out, and I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, I might be making that 1 million, and it's only the 20th of January. So, like, it's one of those weird things, but equally, they wouldn't have asked me that had I not previously built the brand to a place where it is now. And, I have a relationship in one way or another with this company. It may not happen, but equally, like, it's one of those things that if I hadn't have built the brand to what it is today, it's a trustworthy brand. A lot of people love it. A lot of people know and love my videos and the sort of content that I produce. And so that wouldn't have happened if any of that hadn't have happened. And that's why I work so hard every day on my marketing, because I know, obviously this is called Why Marketing Matters, right? I know that it's going to get me to where I need to be. And that's, at the end of the day, what it kind of comes down to.
Yeah, and I think as well, a lot of people. I seen a post the other day, and it was like, "She's so lucky," and there's that element of, well, no, you have to make your own luck, because it wasn't just Selfridges just didn't reach out because you didn't do anything. You've worked so hard. You've put all of those videos out and spent so much time crafting this product and making it amazing and what it is. And that's why they've reached out, because of that hard work. So I guess, some obviously there is luck with a lot of things as well, but I think behind the scenes, not everyone always sees like how hard you work and how much effort actually goes into like building a brand and making that product, all of the emails and the socials and making the TikTok. So that's just a job in itself. But yeah, I think that's a really interesting story. I think a lot of people just assume it's really simple when it's not.
I completely agree with you. And actually, funnily enough, I was thinking about, I think I posted something on Instagram the other day about making your own luck. Because I arrived at, and this is really off topic, but I arrived at the tube platform, right? And in the morning, I always think of really good ideas for social posts. And I arrived at the train platform. The train was there, the doors had just opened, I walked straight on, and I was like, that was lucky. And then I was listening to a podcast and I was like, do you know what? That was lucky. And I couldn't have timed that any better. Right. But if, for example, like, okay, I got sent 3 kilograms of candy kittens the other day. And if one of my friends turned around, and they know I don't like this term of phrase, so they'd never use it anymore, but and be like, oh, you're so lucky. It's like, no, I'm not lucky. They sent me that because I have built my brand to a place where candy kittens want to work with Partner in Wine. And that is not luck. That is hard work. That is marketing. That is branding. That is running a business. But yeah, it's one of those things. I think luck is a very, it's not really a term that can be used around like your career. It's more about, luck is more about being in the right place at the time, at the right time, you know.
Yeah, and I think I've had it as well where I think someone messaged me and it was like, "Oh, you're so lucky to have built Flow, and obviously that's like helped you." But prior to launching Flow, I obviously had to create this portfolio for like a uni project, and it was literally like I spent like 6 months on this bloody portfolio, and I'm not even joking. Like it was just there was so much hard work that went into it, and obviously it's completely different to Partner in Wine, but all that hard work that went into building that brand, like it doesn't just happen. Like you do have to put hard work in to sort of get that end result.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and I think that's a really good note to end on. And I know that you've just mentioned like that goal of hitting 1 million in revenue, but I just wondered if what you sort of see for Partner in One in the future in Sassy Digital, and if you do have like any other 2022 goals, because obviously we are in Jan, so I know a lot of people have been talking about New Year's resolutions and stuff.
I mean, I have 3 different, I guess, columns. So I've got Partner in Wine, Sassy Digital, and then like my personal brand, um, which sounds a bit, meh, but it is what it is because I've got my own following on social media for people who follow me for business marketing and advice and whatnot. Um, So I have like 3 different, I guess those are 3 different businesses, right? And I have different goals for different ones, but ultimately they all complement each other. So basically, it's more just about building up brand awareness. In the future, I want Partner in Wine to be worldwide. It's perfect for sunnier climates. So, I want to take it abroad and I want to, do all of that. Um, but you can't rush these things. You've got to get to a stage where you've got the funds to do that sort of thing. So, growing the business, we're releasing loads more products this year, which is really exciting. So, if you want to be involved with any of the guessing games, then please do go and follow on TikTok. And then in terms of Sassy, um, we're trying to kind of make things more streamlined and easier in terms of being able to help more people. So that includes things like more ebooks, more workshops, and potentially in the future looking into doing some sort of membership whereby people can learn how to, I don't know, build their own website, just so that it kind of takes the manual labor out of our hands. Obviously, I love working with my clients, but because I need to spend a lot of time on Partner in Wine, there's only so much I can do to help other people these days. And, I still want to make sure I do that because it's what gets me out of bed in the morning. And then in terms of me personally, I've got some very exciting opportunities which will all help with the businesses. So it's really important to me to continue to build my personal brand because ultimately it's what sells the bottles, and as I said earlier, I always wanted to be a TV presenter. So that is one of my goals. I mean, it may not happen this year, but I did say that about Selfridges. I would love to do something in TV at some point, but in terms of building my brand, it kind of is centric around wine and marketing. So we'll see.
I can definitely see that happening, Lucy. So I'm sure you'll be on the TV in no time because I mean, even from like your TikToks and stuff, you have such a good energy and like, your presence. It's just natural. I think some people either have it or they don't. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure you 100% will. Um, but yeah, thank you so, so much for coming on this podcast. I'm sure a lot of the Flow community will take so much away from your journey in marketing and be so inspired to maybe start their own business. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
So yeah, that's pretty much it for today, guys. I will put Lucy's at on my Instagram because I'm going to do a post for this. So be sure to check her out and follow her. We're in a brand partner
Amazing.
in wine and Sassy Digital on all of the social channels. And if you're not already following Flow, then be sure to follow and also subscribe to this podcast for lots more marketing related episodes. But yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful day or evening wherever you are, and we will speak very soon.